Alrighty, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to this panel session. I'm just going to wave to you guys so you can see me around there around the lectern. My name is Joel Wallington, I'm the CEO at CoCubes. It's lovely to have you this afternoon. I know it's really hot, so we'll do our best to make this as interesting as possible, but also keep to time so you guys can get ahead to the bars. We're going to be talking this afternoon about the future of paid media and how two startups and scale-ups in particular are helping brands to navigate what's moving into the space in terms of how brands are connecting with their consumers. And so I'm really delighted to be joined by Verity, Hurd and Max Sinclair. Verity, check this out. She's got an awesome bio. All right, Verity is the head of brand marketing at Duel and co-host of the Building Brand Advocacy podcast. It's a top 10 podcast, guys, in marketing. She's an award-winning strategist with deep roots in fashion retail. She leads leading voice, turning communities into powerful advocacy engines. She's known for driving smart, strategic conversations in the marketing space and is also known as the advocacy queen. Welcome, Verity. Round of applause for Verity, please. Now, Max's intro is a little bit shorter, I must admit, but equally as impressive. So Max Sinclair is the founder and CEO of Azoma, who help brands get mentioned in AI search, like ChatGPT, Amazon, and Rufus. So, round of applause for Max, please.
Hi, guys. I also have a podcast, by the way.
Oh, come on.
It's not a top 10.
What's it called, though?
It's called The New Frontier. So it's not worth talking about.
It's not worth talking about, really?
It's called The New Frontier.
Okay, so if you don't want to listen to a podcast, don't check out The New Frontiers by Max Sinclair at Azoma. So guys, look, we're talking about the future of paid media. I wanted just to start with your observations on the current status and what's currently broken with traditional paid media. I wonder, Verity, if you could kick us off.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, it's just forgotten that there's people behind the data. Like, ads talk at people, and people want brands to listen, respond, and relate to them now, because I think social media has completely changed the way that we consume, communicate, and connect. We need those relationships, and I think it's just the paid media sort of playbook as such has just been built for impressions and not the relationship. So I think we're just really overwhelmed. We're tuning out, and you can see that in the data. If you think about how you use social media now, it takes a lot for me to double tap something or comment. If I like something, it goes straight in my DMs or it goes straight in a WhatsApp group. So I think, ads can't reach those places because we're now living in such a closed loop. So yeah, I just think that it's, like I said, it's built for visibility, impressions, but actually growth is in connection now.
Really interesting, and I totally affiliate with being spammed by all the ads that come through my feed. Max, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so I come from less of a social media space, but more of a search space. And I'll throw out a stat, which is 58% of Google searches today don't result in a click. AI overviews are completely eating the traditional Google search. It's not even getting into ChatGPT, which now gets over 1 billion searches every day. So how paid media is not native to AI, I don't believe it's going to be native to AI, and I think there's so much competition in these AI answer engines that diversity means that they can't service paid ads in a way. So you ask an AI answer engine an answer, and it will give it to you, and that changes the game in paid.
Yeah, and so 58%, just say again.
58%
of paid media on Google.
No, of searches do not result in clicking a link anymore.
Okay.
Because it's an AI overview, and that's of today.
And then you said 1 billion searches on LLMs.
ChatGPT.
On ChatGPT alone.
Google is losing search volume. So for the first time ever in in Google's antitrust lawsuit they're going with in the US, Apple testified that they're losing search volume. First time in history. So the landscape is completely shifting, and this is shifting how paid is working.
I think that you can really see that in sort of Gen Z, they're completely reshaping how it all works. They don't Google, they chat GPT.
Correct.
It's just clear that, it's completely, that it's having a massive restructure.
So
I love my stats, and I can throw out a stat here. 93% of Gen Z are using at least 2 AI answer engines every week. So that's ChatGPT plus Perplexity, Gemini plus Claude, whatever it will be. But these folks are AI native, And, as a millennial, we're also AI native. We're 79% of us are using at least 2 every week. So, the game is changing.
And no surprises here for any brands that you need to be able to respond to that, particularly when targeting younger audiences that are so native to some of these search tools. I wonder, Verity, if we could turn to you and just talk about how brands are particularly turning their consumers into their most powerful advocates. It's really interesting what you do at Duel, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I suppose the big question, this is advocacy in action, and this is what I want to talk about is some set principles that they're tried and tested methods that the world's the top 1% of brands have been living by from day one. So if you think about your OG Lululemons, the Patagonias, they were engineered for brand advocacy from the start. They invested in their people, their customers, their employees, their communities. They didn't go for the short-term hacks. They didn't use ads. So these principles, like I said, they're tried and tested, and it's a journey from customer to fan, from fan to advocate. The first principle is it sounds really boring, but it is purpose. The brands that have a why, they inspire long-term loyalty beyond the product cycles. And the second one is remarkable experiences. And I think this is the one where if you get this right, it will really trigger to get that fan into on-the-ground storytellers. And this is about, at every touch point, you've got a moment to kind of create these surprise and delight moments, the moments where people want to go, I need to tell you about this, because they're the stories that live on. And I honestly think if you don't have a surprise and delight budget, not just for your influencers, but for your loyal fans as well, then you're really missing an opportunity for long-term brand equity. And then it's about employees and, sort of making them employee advocates. And we're seeing more and more brands do that now, which is great. But they're the front line of your brand. They're the mouthpiece of your brand. And if you align them with your mission, they're talking proof of your brand and what you do. And then it's the C word, which,
Go on.
It's the word that is on every deck, but the most misunderstood, and that's community. And we probably, you've probably heard about it a lot today already, but this is about, creating and engaging a customer community. I heard someone this morning actually, and I thought it was really good, about community starts when it becomes an inconvenience for brands. And I thought that was really good because it should be. It's about human connection. It's about really getting into the nitty-gritty of who they are, what they want, and really listening and engaging to them. And then the last one is about amplifying your advocates. So finding a way to empower them so that they do go out there and tell your story and share their experiences of who you are. A great example of this is Abercrombie, one of our customers, and they were on the podcast as well. When they went through their whole transformation stage, I don't know whether you remember this, they decided that they couldn't go out there and say, hey, we're Abercrombie, we've changed, believe us, because we're telling you we've changed.
Yeah.
They had to use creators to do it for them, and they knew it was a deliberate, kind of slow process to get that communication out there. But actually what they say is that it had a massive, significant impact on how they were able to convey that story at scale. So I think it just really shows how powerful that can be.
What did they change from and to?
I don't think we should get into that.
Okay, fine. I like Abercrombie. I used to wear it a lot when I was, younger.
They're great now. They went through a bit of a weird phase.
Fair enough.
But that touches on a particular thing around trust, and you're saying, brands not actually just pushing messages onto consumers, but actually using their fan base and their customers to actually communicate the values and actually build better trust, I guess, between them. Can you talk to us, why is that so important for brands thinking about the future, thinking about how do they connect with and engage with consumers and new customers in particular? Where does trust kind of fall into that?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that we trust our friends and family and, our favorite creators more than we do ads and, whatever else is pushed at us. I think, from a, why trust is so relevant now, reach doesn't necessarily equal relevance. Just because you see an ad doesn't mean that you believe it, trust it, or care about it. And impressions doesn't equal influence. The metrics that we use to chase just shows who we interrupted rather than who we influenced. So I think for me, we've shifted from the attention economy to the trust economy. And that's about, getting into those close circles and, it's those people that we choose to listen to.
Yeah, go on, Max.
No.
I thought you were going to say
Well, good point. I agree.
So there's some really cool things coming around purpose, around activating your fans to become your advocates, about, you said another word, about leveraging, reaching. Thank you, Max. Max, when it comes to how products are being found today, could you just give us a bit of insights, particularly from your experience from Azoma, about how customers are now finding products?
Yeah, so at Azoma, we help brands and retailers to get mentioned in AI search, like ChatGPT, Amazon Rufus, Perplexity. I saw a Capgemini study, which is that 58% of consumers have replaced Google with ChatGPT or a similar AI engine. So the way that consumers are researching stuff is shifting. A lot of our customers are what I would call high consideration purchases. So if you're doing a lot of research, like we have Zappos, if you're researching a new running shoe for a marathon, you're going to spend a lot of time looking at that. You're probably going to ask an AI answer engine if you're, of a certain age, under 50, let's say. So yeah, the way I agree, it comes into trust. Whenever I talk to my friends about what I do, they are shocked that we are influencing these models, and they are sad because they trust these models. People trust ChatGPT. People use it as a therapist. They use it as their best friend. Slightly, it's not how I personally use it. It can get a little bit weird, a relationship between humans and AI. But they certainly trust it a lot more than Google and paid.
And when it comes down to then, particularly around optimization of generative AI, just break it down for us. What's the key difference between your traditional SEO and what's being used in these large language models?
So I really like to emphasize this point, which is these models work on a completely different basis from traditional SEO. So I used to work at Amazon. I used to work in search. The way that Amazon search used to work is you would take a keyword, let's say water bottle, and we would work out what's the best water bottle to show someone based on sales velocity, based on reviews, based on a whole bunch of different, maybe 20, 30 kind of points. AI engines work differently. They have a kind of world model that they're trained on. They have understanding of the world. In goes a prompt, which is a few words. And then it goes into its world knowledge. It understands the customer, and out comes the answer, which is a different. It's hard to explain on a stage, but it's a different technology completely from what we are used to with kind of just stack ranking keywords. It's about context. It's about semantic. It's about the individual consumer who's putting it in. There's so many differences, and it's why it's been so transformational.
And it sounds like there's so much potential with it to go in different avenues as well. I'm just thinking as you're talking about that, like with these large language models understanding us more and more as we use them.
Oh, yeah.
More and more.
They have memory. They understand us. And one of the things we do at Azoma is to use personas. So we will prompt the AI engines as different personas.
Okay.
Let's say in the water bottle example, if you're targeting men in their 30s, we'll put other prompts in that are unrelated to the customer's topic, but a man in his 30s may ask. To kind of influence the AI model to think it's that persona speaking to it, and then you get a different type of response to if we're talking a woman in her 60s or whatever else it could be.
And I think that's the beauty of it for brands, particularly for the water company example.
Cano Water.
They could be, Cano Water. Are you doing the Cano Water pitch?
I am, yeah.
All right, guys, Thursday, Max is pitching to Cano Water for a paid pilot. Cano Water,
I've been living off them
you've
today,
already thought about this
hell.
clearly, haven't you? But they could surface then very bespoke responses to a 30-year-old male,
correct,
different to a 20-year-old female, depending on
it's limited what they can influence. I think the first step is what's actually the AI is showing. Are they showing Can of Water? Are they showing Evian? Are they showing Kirkland Water? What is the brand sentiment? All of these questions that are kind of like the foundations of just understanding how the AI is talking about your brand. And then what we help them do is to generate content which is optimized for LLMs, so product listings, blogs, recipes. It could be anything which is optimized to be picked up by these LLMs and therefore put in as part of the answer.
Yeah, okay. I'm really interested to know, Verity, about personalization and the advocacy that you're doing around that. How can brands get more personal through things like advocacy? Like what would be some of your top tips, or what are some of your musings?
So you're talking about sort of getting personal at scale. I think first of all, you kind of have to shift the mindset of like, if you're kind of going in at like thinking like we need to like really personalize this and we need to do it at scale, you kind of have to shift, like you're not thinking about connection, like, because as soon as you start measuring that, like you're kind of already losing its value. And then I think, sorry, what was the question again? The heat is now definitely getting to
Yeah,
me.
The lights here are killer. You guys, I think, have got the best spot in Madfest under this like shaded place. I was sitting there earlier.
I was just interested with, like, around personalisation, particularly with brand advocacy and what you're doing at Duel. Like, how can brands get clear? Like, I know it's very obvious that you, in the solution, they use your customers and consumers to do that, but have you seen any kind of good examples at scale where they've been able to really nail that?
Yeah, I mean, it's smart segmentation. You know, if anyone heard Freddie do the pitch before, he kind of started to talk about this. Like, you know, you kind of bring, you know, you bring in hundreds of people that are your customers, that are loyal fans, and you find out who they are. And what's really interesting is that you kind of start to see that, you know, you've got lots of different groups of people, and once you start to kind of like understand who they are and what they're interested in, you can start breaking them down into like different groups, and then that's when you can start to get really personal. You know, I think you've just got to listen to them, even like, you know, using the same tone of voice that they want to have, because if they see their own voice back at you, then they're going to feel like really, like that's going to be really relatable. But yeah, so I think just to kind of put it simply, I think you just have to really understand who they are, and then, you know, use certain messaging for, like, you may have, like Freddie mentioned it, you may have like professionals in your group, like professional skincare. Yeah. You may have like hobbyists that are gamers, you know. So once you know these little sub networks of people, like I always say, so many brands are sitting on such a gold mine of opportunity because of how they just don't understand like the power of network. So, and then that's when you can start to get really personal with the messaging, and it still scales.
And that's assuming that these are already existing customers, they have data on them. What about predicting their future customers, and how would you advise a brand thinking about, do I focus and double down on the customers I have and mining that data, or do I think about who's my next customer going to be?
So your next best customer is your current best customer's best mate.
Wait, can you say that again? It's too hot.
Your
next best customer.
Next best customer is your current best customer's best mate.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree that you need to like, yeah, it's your existing fans. You need to actively engage them and listen to them, because advocacy is like, it grows through network, like I was just saying, and you know. I heard this morning, again, the same talk, and they said, like, when you work with a creator, for example, or an advocate, you don't just work with one, you're tapping into their content ecosystem. And it's exactly true. You know, we have, when we started working with Charlotte Tilbury, when we started tapping into their network, we identified that they have got hundreds, thousands of gamers on Twitch, and no predictive model would have been ever able to tell them to go and target gamers on Twitch. Like, they just wouldn't know. So now they've got an advocacy program that's tailored just for them. So they're getting, you know, very personalized, very tailored content. They're getting specific tasks, all of that. And I just think, yeah, it's kind of like, it's activating and learning about the customer, because they're the most loyal, they're cheaper, and they will bring more people in.
Super interesting, and such interesting insights around Twitch and Charlotte Tilbury stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder, Max, if you could just, coming back to the LLM search space.
Yeah. I love talking about this.
Yeah, well,
Fire away.
I can't really tell. How are brands winning in that space currently right now?
So how are brands winning? Firstly, they're working with Azoma, so come check us out in the Co-Cubed area. But I think what's really critical is to create semantic content, talking about who your customer is as a brand. The beautiful thing about GEO, or generative engine optimization, compared to SEO is SEO would typically take like 2-3 months for anything to get ranked. Yeah. These AI engines are, you know, for each query, they're going out and they actually bias towards more recent data. This can be problematic with hallucinations, you know, but I'm sure these AI models will solve for this. Like, the direction of travel is clear. But frequently putting out content, obviously you don't want to get spam, you know, blocked for spam or anything, but putting out content which is relevant to your target consumer, is talking to the person, and also answering the kind of questions that people are asking to the LLMs. That's how you will get picked up and be recommended.
Wicked. All right, I've got one eye on time. I know you guys are boiling, sitting through it. So we'll come into land with a final question for both Verity and Max. I'm really interested to know, you're sat in front of a global CEO of a big brand. What's your one piece of advice for them about the future and how they can move beyond paid media? They weren't prepared for this either, so I'm sorry, Verity, I'll kind of throw you in there. But
do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my honest view is that paid, I'm specifically talking about like PPC, pay-per-click. I think this is a thing of the past. I think we'll look back at it at like something which was very interesting business model from 2010 to 2020. I think we're going to move into a new world of how we get in front of brands. I think it's going to be influencing AI models. And I think it's going to be about being more authentic. So a lot of what you talked about having champions and people caring about your brand is important as well. Like, no doubt that's super important. So I think the world is shifting, and I think I would encourage this imaginary person to recognize it and be an early adopter and not kind of trust the channel that's worked for them for 10 years because, you know, the world is changing.
There you go. There you have it. Pitch done. Love it. Verity.
I would say that you just have to invest in your people, and you know, you just got to understand that this is a long-term strategy. Like, unfortunately, it's not something that you can just switch on overnight and it's going to start working. But like I said, we've got tried and trusted methods. We know this works. You can see the top 1% of brands are living it. They're living proof. So just, yeah, you've got to invest in your people, because social commerce era, which is where we're at right now, is people-powered. So, yeah.
Love it. Verity, Max, thank you so much for bearing through the heat.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your Mad Fest. Just as a reminder, we've got speed dates happening the other side of the stage. So if you want to meet with Max or Verity or the team from Duel, then you please head over to the House of Innovation to do so. But thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.